Now I want to bring you a shocking and astounding true crime story. It relates to the terrible so-called family murders in South Australia in the late 1970s and 1980s. I've got to tell you, as a former South Australian who lived through this period, it sends a chill up my spine and fills me with dread and anger to talk about this issue. Some of the victims came from my neck of the woods, and I used to work with one of the victims' father, a wonderful man, a very popular Adelaide newsreader. As part of a Foxtel true crime series, Debi Marshall started investigating another notorious Adelaide murder and ended up finding out about getting more information about the so-called family murders, and then coming face to face with one of the most depraved serial killers in the country and going on to interview one of his former associates. Here's the promo for Marshall's program.
What actually happened the night of Derek's murder? I need you to tell me the truth. You had to have nerves of steel, a heart of stone, you had to be a rally driver, a hitman, yes. You had to be a master of disguise, you had to be a genius.
Something is not right and other people are involved.
What began as a single murder investigation has suddenly become something much more sinister.
Debi Marshall investigates Frozen Lies. Starts Tuesday, September 24, only on Foxtel.
Investigative journalist Debi Marshall joins me now. Thanks for joining me, Debi. You started off investigating this infamous body in a freezer case that a lot of people have heard about over many years, but you eventually came into reference with the so-called family murders, and you ended up in jail with the one person convicted over the family murders, Bevan Spencer von Einem, one of the most evil men in this country. What was it like to sit down and face-to-face with such an evil man?
Well, Chris, it was face-to-face. I was expecting a glass partition between us, and when I got there I was horrified to find that there was nothing. You know, our knees are almost touching. I mean, you've got to remember that von Einem is as infamous as Ivan Milat. He's in a very high security prison in Port Augusta. I went in as a friend. He wanted to meet me. I went in via a friend. And you know, at first it was fine. He was charming and he was eloquent and he bent to kiss me, and, you know, he was very pleased to have the first visitor in 7 years. But then I touched on Richard Kelvin, the victim for whom he has been imprisoned for the last 36 years. And to my horror, the psychopath came out. I realised instantly that this man, who's about 6'4", could snap my neck in an instant.
Many people have tried to speak to him. Many journalists over the years have tried to speak to him. You obviously were successful with so many others have failed. Did he shed any new light on the cases? Because there have always been suspicions, I suppose, theories that he could not have committed these crimes, murdering young men, without some assistance.
You know, I tried, obviously, to talk to him about that. Deny, deny, deny. And worse, Chris, he actually blamed his victim, 15-year-old Richard Kelvin. It is quite disgusting, and it's quite chilling to think that a man who has had so many years to ruminate on what he did, and as you say, you know, he had to have had other people with him. It was impossible. We're talking 5 boys over a period from 1979 to 1983.
When we say boys, some of them 18, 19, big, strong young men, really.
Drugged, abducted from the streets of Adelaide. Imagine, they're hitchhiking or they're just lured into the car or thrown into the car forcibly. They're taken, they're drugged, they're held captive, they are sexually tortured. It is the most serious, outrageous series of crimes.
It is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Now, von Einem will never see the light of day outside of jail. That's a fact, isn't it? He'll die in jail.
That is a fact, yeah.
But the incredible thing that you've done also, apart from speaking face-to-face to this evil man, is you caught up with a bloke by the name of Lewis Turtur, who previously, his name was suppressed, but you got that suppression listed and you've actually done an interview with him. Now, he's the brother of the very famous South Australian Olympic gold medalist, Mike Turtur, and renowned around the world as the bloke who runs the Tour Down Under. But Lewis Turtur told you not directly about the murders, but he told you and admitted to his role in this practice of picking up hitchhikers and drugging them with von Einem. How did you come to meet him and convince him to tell you about this?
Well, I recognised as soon as I started looking at this for this Foxtel investigation about 18 months ago that the first thing we need to do, we really need to get in there and kick those doors down and get those suppressions lifted. We were successful in 5. 4 of the people are dead. Lewis Turtur was still alive. And now, we cannot condone, Chris, what he did back in the day. We cannot condone that. But what we can do is applaud him for he at least has the courage to come forward, which I have to say, a lot of people are still hiding under rocks about this. So,
well, this is staggering. It's an incredible interview, and we'll show some of this now. And this is Lewis Turtur, asked by Debi about his relationship with Bevan Spencer von Einem.
Why did you become involved with him? What did he have that you needed?
Drugs. He could get drugs that no one else could.
So tell me about when he brought the boys back to your house. Tell me about that.
He used to knock on the door 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and said, "Can I use the room?" And I said, "OK, then come in." And he used to take them to the room and have sex, and then when we went in the next morning to wake them up, they wouldn't wake up. So we used to let them, thinking they were drunk, we used to let them sleep off, go to work, and when we came back, they were gone. So.
And was von Einem gone? When did he leave?
Von Einem disappeared. He disappeared.
When?
After half an hour, he left.
Everyone in that household had sex with those boys at one time or another, didn't they?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Let's not wallpaper it over.
OK, yes, we did have sex with some of them, OK? The police know. They've taken statements from them, and yes.
Debi, just sickening stuff yet again. I keep using that word sickening, but that's just how I feel about it. But what good can come from Lewis Turtur speaking like this, and do you believe he told you everything he knows?
Look, I'm sure he didn't, I'm sure, but he has left the door open for me to go back to him, which is fantastic. But what I am doing, Chris, I'm putting the call out, please, other victims, other witnesses, come forward. Please come forward. Now's the time. It's time. This has been almost 40 years, for God's sake. We're talking about young men who were murdered. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of boys who were abducted, as we've just seen with Lewis Turtur.
Are the police still pursuing these? Are police still receptive to this additional information?
Police, SAPOL, you know, back in the day did a fantastic job of trying to crack open these cases. We're now trying to do what we can, and together we hopefully we can, you know, what do they say? Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Absolutely.
Let's bring this out into the light.
Well, let's have a look at another bit of the interview with Lewis Turtur, and this is where you effectively put to him that he could have spoken up earlier, that if he'd alerted authorities to this horrible practice of drugging hitchhikers and the like, perhaps at least some of the murders could have been prevented.
Has it ever occurred to you that had you spoken to the police back then, that possibly you and your friends could have stopped von Einem from going on to murder people? If you'd said, look, he's bringing these drugged hitchhikers home.
We believed him when he said no. We asked when that Adam Barnes' body was found there, no. Oh, I should have done more, baby. I should have done more.
What do you hope happens from now?
The truth comes out, the whole truth.
There we go. Now, Debi Marshall, your program, Debi Marshall Investigates Frozen Lies, airs on Tuesday, September the 24th. You've already said you hope that putting this to air will bring more people forward, more witnesses, and more information to you and to the police. Why do you investigate these horrors and these tragedies? I believe it's because of a personal trauma in your own life.
Yes, I had a partner who was murdered in '92. I was very much in love with him. We were together for 2 years. I have to add a little writer here. He was, you know, a marijuana dealer, which I didn't know at the time. The man who murdered him went on to murder someone else 14 years later. I tracked him. I tracked for 7 months. He was missing, and I was determined to find out who'd killed him, and I tracked his killer, who then threatened me with my own life, said, back off, you'll end up wearing cement boots. I was already a journalist, I was already an author, but I started down this path to help victims and their families, and it's the best thing I love my job, and I love the people I work for.
It must make you almost physically ill, though, coming face to face with such monsters. But but you do this not just to tell the story, you do this because you want to help solve crimes.
Look, I spoke to Alan Barnes' sister today. He was the first family murder victim, and all she could say was thank you. Thank you. And, you know, I said, what do you want to happen? She said, what I've been wanting all the way through. I need to be able to find out who else killed my brother, who else killed these other boys, and that's what I'm putting the call out for now. Let's get this out there, Chris. Let's find out.
Well, as I say, as a former South Australian, I just know, and this is a murder saga, a horrible serial murder that has captured attention, of course, around the country, around the world even. But as a South Australian, there's always been this palpable sense of injustice. Everybody is glad that Bevan Spencer von Einem is rotting in jail, but because of what's been suppressed in court, because of what people know, they know there must be other people involved. Turtur at least has talked about some of his involvement in related crimes, but we need more information if anybody else is going to pay a price.
We do, and, you know, we need, if we can, to try to get the suppressions lifted.
Yes.
Turtur has named names, which I can't name here. You know, we've got a long way to go. We are just starting this investigation. Oh, my God, I'm ready. Let's go. You know, let's bring it on.
Well, all power to you, Debbie, and thanks so much for sharing that with us tonight.
Thank you, Chris.
Debi Marshall there, the investigative journalist. Her program, Debi Marshall Investigates Frozen Lies, airs on Foxtel on Tuesday, September the 24th. There's a podcast as well. So listen to that, watch the program, and especially if you're watching from South Australia, if there's anything you know, anything, no matter how small or irrelevant you think it might be, contact Debbie or indeed contact the South Australian Police. Just shocking crimes here, and as we know these days with all sorts of cold case investigations, it's never too late for the long arm of justice to catch up with people.